Hi, and welcome to Rowdy Sports. This is your boy Peach. Let's get straight into the news, starting with the World Cup. Started off the World Cup with Mexico versus South Africa and South Korea versus Czechia. 3 red cards. This is the first time in World Cup history to start the tournament with 3 red cards. Not only that, but a team to get 2 yellow cards is the first time in history as well. South Africa now holds the record for that. Maybe not a record that they want to hold, but it is theirs nonetheless. This referee was no nonsense. The third red card that went to Mexico was soft to say the least. But he set a precedence in the early game for the first red card, which was a goal scoring opportunity. Gutierrez got brought down outside the box. The controversy was that people are saying that it was a penalty, but the foul occurred outside the box and moved its way in. Didn't really move its way into the box. The players kind of fell into the box. You know what I mean? So the foul stopped outside the box and the players fell in. It was definitely a goal scoring opportunity. That red card was a red card. The second red card, definitely a red card as well. The red card for Mexico, the South African player was, he was on attack and he may have had a goal scoring opportunity. He may have had a shot for sure, but he wasn't like directly in front of goal. And there definitely was there were Mexican players that were not so much in between him and goal, but they could have got there. I don't think that would have. It was a soft red card, but he did set the precedence of, players through on goal. That's going to get a red card if you bring him down. You can't argue with it after that point. It just is what it is. Opening goal from Quinones was a wonderful goal. Outside the box, the Mexican players capitalized on a mistake at the back. Quinones gets the assist gets the ball off of a bundle, puts it away. Great way for Mexico to start the tournament. Raul Jimenez, with his first start for Mexico, gets a goal as a starter, as his first start. You could see the passion and how much it meant to him. He was crying on the sideline. He was so elated about the fact that he scored, and he should be. To start the tournament that way, in that fashion, sets the tone for their tournament. The Mexican national team looks dangerous. In my opinion, out of all the host teams, they probably look like the most together team. A lot of people are saying that the play was a little selfish. I kind of see it, but you're in the World Cup and you want to score, you want to win. Sometimes playing selfish is the right choice. They had a lot of opportunities that could have been a higher scoring game had there been more awareness from players and a little less selfishness. But honestly, a win's a win. And the way to start a tournament, getting a 2-0 win, keeping a clean sheet, that's a great way to start the World Cup. They're probably going to lead their group, and they'll probably get out of their group real easily. Moving on to South Korea versus Czechia. The first half was boring. I don't know. I almost fell asleep. There was a couple shots on goal, but ultimately Korea dominated the first half. No goals. Going into the second half, the opening goal of the Czechia national team came from a corner. Unmarked. The captain scores, sets the tone, and then Czechia just kind of shut down again. Like in the beginning of the game, they were doing a lot. They were getting a lot of pickups in the midfield, and then they were just passing back to control the game, try to retain the ball, and try to control the tempo. After the first goal, they tried to do the same thing, but Korea fought back, and that first goal the second goal that tied up the game. Hwang with the beautiful chip. The cutback and chip was outstanding. It was outstanding. Really, really great goal best of the 5 of the opening day, in my opinion. And then Czechia kept doing more of the same thing. They would get the ball in open play, midfield, and then just turn around and try to control the tempo like they were playing for the draw. And then they ended up losing, and they continued doing the same thing. A goal ruled off, or a goal was marked off by for the Czechia national team, scored by Thomas Souček, who looks like the Hunchback of Notre Dame without the hunchback. Man, his celebration cut short. You could see the oof in his eyes, like, oh, I wasn't offside. He was clearly offside. It always baffles me when you get called offside from a set piece. It's not like you don't know when the ball is coming. It's poor awareness, to say the least. And he should kind of feel ashamed of himself to be called offside there. He had all the time in the world to get back onside. And then he was unmarked for the goal. So if he had got back onside and scored, it would have been incredible to tie it up that way. But, that's 2 goals where Korea didn't mark at the back properly. While one may have gotten chalked off, that's a warning sign for Korea. They need to think more about their set piece defense. With players like Kim Min-jae, that can't be happening. That really can't be happening. He's Bayern Munich's starting center back. Like, there is no reason that he should be giving up space at the back like that to just. It was you could see the nerves in the opening matches of the game. 3 red cards in the first match, and then kind of like loose goals getting scored in the second match, with a lot of lackadaisical play from Czechia as well. Moving on to today's matches, we have Canada versus Bosnia to start the day, and USA versus Paraguay to end the day. Start with Canada first. So Alphonso Davies ruled out for the tournament. This is a big miss for Canada. Big miss for Canada. Agreed over there. I mean, probably their best player. You could argue that Buchanan or Jonathan David is just as influential, but Alphonso Davies is definitely the engine for the Canadian national team, in my opinion. I could be wrong. Someone else could, I'm not wrong. I know I'm right. Fuck with me. With Alphonso Davies out, you're looking at a mid, subpar defense in comparison. I know that he plays this wandering role where he moves into the midfield for Canada, so you have to really kind of expect that they're not going to have that same kind of tempo coming out of the back without him. It's really going to come down to players like Jonathan David getting goals to kind of uplift the Canadian national team here against Bosnia. Bosnia, on the other hand, well, they may not have any superstar players to note of, recognize that they are a very aggressive team. If you watched any of their friendlies or any of their qualifiers, they put a lot of players on their asses. I mean, they'll 50-50. Every 50-50, a player is going to end up on the ground, probably. I mean, they're one of those teams where, like South Africa, they're going to go for every single ball at 110%, even if that player dies trying. You know what I mean? They're going to fight for everything. So this could be, if we're doing score predictions here, I'm thinking this is probably going to be either a 1-1 or 2-1 to Canada. I don't see this being a blowout, especially because Alphonso Davies is injured. I don't see this being a blowout game. And people will say, well, one player doesn't dictate how an entire team plays. Well, that's wrong. I mean, that's truly wrong when you look at players that are literal superstar athletes for clubs and countries. They literally do dictate how those teams play. I could give you a million examples, but we'll just give you Messi as the main example. Moving on to USA versus Paraguay. A lot of pundits, a lot of telecasters and sportcasters will say that the main the main thing that the U.S. need to do is get Christian Pulisic and Florian Balogun on the same page. While I don't disagree with that, I think that the tempo of the game is really going to need to be dictated by players like Weston McKennie or Tyler Adams. Players of individual or certain players are going to have moments of individual brilliance, like Anthony Robinson. I think that the U.S. it needs to be a team performance. It can't just be like, we have this star-studded player. It needs to be a team performance. Otherwise, they're going to lose to Paraguay again. And that's not what we want. That's not what anybody wants from these host teams. Nobody wants these host teams to lose in their opening games. I mean, maybe most of Europe wants to see America lose, but we don't want to see that. The players are going to have to dictate the tempo in the midfield and in the defense. The defense and midfielder, I think, are going to be the most important thing here. You can't have like sloppy passes at the back. You can't have these like nonsense errors that come and lead to goals. Distribution from the goalkeeper. I think it's going to be Matt Turner that starts. As an Arsenal fan, I support Matt Turner, but at the same pace, I think that he doesn't have the coverage at the back that makes him a great shot, like a great stopper. You know what I mean? Like the second that an error happens, he's often caught in no man's land or caught out of position or wide of where the ball is being shot. So it's really going to come down to the defense and midfield, in my opinion, dictating the tempo and pace of this game to try to get USA with their first win. I think that I'm not a fan of Mauricio Pochettino for many reasons, obviously, but I think that if he's not loud on that sideline and really getting his players into the energy of this is the World Cup and you need to be representing your country in the best way possible, the USA could lose today. And I know that sounds really ridiculous. I don't think it'll be like a 2-0, 3-1, you know what I mean? It might be a 2-1, or a 1-0, or we could draw today. But if all the players are, ticking together, I think that, it's not far off to say that the USA could win 3-1, 2-1 here. But I do think that, if we're not dictating that tempo, if we are making sloppy errors at the back, you're going to see the USA draw. You're going to see the USA lose or do something stupid, give up a clean sheet. It's entirely possible that the USA get knocked out in their first in the group, especially with the way they've been playing in friendlies. It's upsetting to hear and say, but it is what it is. We have not been playing sensationally well in friendlies. Those are the games that dictate how we play in this tournament. So I am not convinced as a fan, but as a supporter, I'm going to support my country. It's going to be an interesting day. My score predictions for USA versus Paraguay, I'm going to say 3-1 USA, and my score prediction for Canada-Bosnia is going to be 1-1. I think that both of these games are going to be great games. I think not in the way that people are hoping so much for the Canada-Bosnia game. I think people are hoping for like a shootout or a gun show, but I just don't think that's possible with Alphonso Davies being out. I do think, in my heart of hearts, I think that the USA are going to do well today, and I am looking forward to watching that and getting hammered. So let's move on to other sports news. We have the New York Knicks in line to win their third championship ever. First in 53 years. They haven't won since 1973. It's going to be absolute bedlam in New York if they win. This game that's coming up is going to be played in San Antonio. I hope the Spurs lose because I hope every Spur loses. Always. Doesn't matter what sport. I hate them. I think that if the Spurs take it back to Madison Square Garden, I think that's just a real long shot, Spurs are currently down 3-1. I just think that the Knicks they're going to clutch up. Jalen Brunson and Cat they're playing outstanding right now. The tip to win in Game 4, outstanding. I mean, it was an incredible ending to a game. I couldn't believe it. I'm not even a huge basketball fan, and I was like losing it. It was a great game. The comeback, to say the least, was outstanding. Moving on to the Stanley Cup. The Canes might secure greatness after 20 years. 05-06 was the last time they won a championship. It's hard to make fun of any of these professionals because they all know how to read. I mean, both the players on the Vegas Knights and the Hurricanes, they all are literate individuals. So, it's not like you're dealing with any of the Tkachuk brothers here who cannot spell. This game is going to be played in Vegas. It's going to be a hard game. I do think that this game goes. I think that this Stanley Cup goes to Game 7. It goes back to Carolina and they win on home field. But going to Vegas and playing there is tough. That crowd is kind of nuts. It's not like you're going to like Los Angeles and playing at the Staples Center or Crypto Arena. The Kings fans are so quiet that you could hear a mouse run through the stadium. But this game in Vegas is big. If the Canes win in Vegas, that'd be really, really surprising. But if they come back and for Game 7, Vegas wins tonight or tomorrow, come back Game 7 and play in Carolina and win, I could see that happening way more than them winning outright in Vegas. Moving on to baseball. Baseball kind of sucks, and I have nothing to report on it. Other than that, that's the news. We'll be back tomorrow with more World Cup and talking about... I don't know what teams are playing tomorrow. We'll see you in the future.